Yo, what's going on guys? HyperX here and welcome back to another video for Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. And today I want to talk about some of the reasons that I'm looking forward to this game. 6 reasons that this is not only mixing up the Borderlands series, the Borderlands formula, but of course also bringing some exciting new stuff to look forward to. So if you guys do enjoy this, if you're interested in this game, definitely let me know in the comments down below. Did you guys enjoy Borderlands 3? Is this something that maybe appeals to you? Or is it one of those things where you need to see more before you make your mind up? Either way, let me know in the comments down below. Drop a like on this video if you do enjoy it, and of course don't forget to sub because I plan to play this next year when it does drop. So if you guys want to see more of it, then definitely stick around on the channel. But to begin with, in number 1, one of the things that I like the most about this so far is just the overworld, because of course this is a game inspired by D&D, and of course you have the tabletop nature to it, and whereas in other games the tabletop aspect might just be like a point A to point B, kind of just like moving from mission to mission, in this one they have actually made a whole feature out of it. The overworld is an expansive map that connects the many hotspots of the Wonderlands. When you're not engaged in sort of first-person combat or exploring the sort of new areas up close, you basically get this third-person bird's eye view of these little bobbleheads of your characters, which look fantastic. I love them. I feel like if they're going to do a collector's edition, they need to have some bobbleheads. It would just be hella cool. It's called your Fate Maker, your character you basically walk around with, and they said that of course when you're exploring this world, handle with care, because of course there's no telling what Tina will do if you break one of her miniatures. If you dare to venture off the beaten path in the overworld as well, and this is one of the cool things, you can find all sorts of goodies, including extra chests full of gold, hidden collectibles, lucky dice, and pieces of buff granting shrines, and even entirely optional areas with their own quest lines. But it's also worth noting, you can also catch the attention of enemies out in the open, itching for random encounters. But of course, if you're not in the mood for the fight, you can simply run away or punch your attacker before they reach you, but that does of course mean that you have the option to get into more engagements. However, following on from this, in a recent interview, point number 2 are world changes. In an interview with Matt Cox, the question was asked that sort of regarding the overworld, they said that they had of course previously mentioned how, in a sort of interactive manner, a can of soda dropped on the board is something that will actually be visible in-game. So the question was then, to what extent are these changes dynamic, and are they impacted by, say, player choice? And Matt Cox then wanted to say that it's kind of really in the context of Tina narrating the game, because he said there's even an aspect of the game where she drops a Cheeto or leaves a Cheeto on the board, and she then has to pretend like that's totally meant to be part of the story, part of the narrative. So it kind of seems like whilst you're exploring the overworld, whilst you're kind of like, you know, laying down your pathways and whatnot, there will probably be dynamic situations where when you go to return to an area, there might just be like a can of soda or a Cheeto or like a random Dorito or something that blocks your path. That suddenly then becomes part of the narrative, and that of course has some of that humour to it, which is definitely pretty exciting. In fact, on the context of the Cheeto specifically, they then said that when this happens in game, it actually gets called out. It's like, hey, did you leave this here? And she's like, nope, that's not me, that's a quest in itself. And you then go on a related quest. So honestly, those dynamic events definitely sound pretty exciting. Point number 3, of course, is spellcasting, because again, if you guys play Borderlands, it's normally all about guns. Yes, you do of course have some abilities, especially if you play as some of the sirens, but it is largely speaking a shooter. Spellcasting has a big component to play in this game. They said that when bullets are not enough to fell your foes, it's time to light them up with a dash of magic. Spells are of course a spectacularly sparkly way to damage your enemies, and they have relatively short cooldowns because this is one of those games where, again, they want you to be able to use your abilities a lot. Sometimes you kind of have this sort of balancing thing where abilities, like, they're powerful but you can't use them too frequently. They're definitely leaning more so on the use it a lot, have fun with it kind of aspects. Any class can equip any spell that drops as a piece of loot, so you can kind of just see it like another gun, and you should feel free to swap between spells often to find out which one works best for your loadouts. Spells will have wildly varying properties, even when they're the same basic type, such as a fireball or a magic missile or a summoned hydra. They will have different properties to them. They said you might even find a spell that has multiple charges, allowing for continuous casting, which again, super handy for things like poison beams, that kind of thing. However, in addition to this, the other cool aspect is melee combat. Now again, if you play Borderlands before, I know someone like Krieg of course has a melee weapon, but largely speaking, melee has never been a primary focus of Borderlands. And even in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, melee is a bigger thing. It's still never going to be your primary way to play. Well, they say that. I'm going to try and make it work because honestly, I like just meleeing things anyway. So I'm probably going to try and find a way to make it viable. That being said, they said that melee, sometimes enemies of course rush at you before your guns or spells can get the job done, and this of course is where melee comes in. You will always have room for a dedicated melee weapon in your inventory, and though you likely won't be swinging it for every single encounter, it is there if you're in a pinch. Whenever you whack most targets with a melee attack, they stagger backwards, of course then give you a chance to get your bearings, switch to your gun, use your spells, that kind of thing. So they definitely are used more so from a defensive point of view, but when you do take a look at some of the classes, we do see a few more sort of melee options. So again, I'm kind of hopeful for potentially making it more viable than they say. Melee damage, of course, is meant to complement your firearms and spells, not replace them, but again, you can collect more powerful melee gear that will, of course, provide various benefits with it after you connect with a melee attack. So sometimes it won't just be about using melee to dish out the damage, sometimes it might be hit them for a debuff, hit them to kind of power you up, and then follow up. So melee is definitely going to be, even if it's not described as like your primary method of attack, a core part of your gameplay. Outside of that, of course, the classes, there are going to be 6 classes in total. So far, they have shown 2, the Berserker and the Stabbermancer. Berserker are, of course, specialists of melee and cryo damage. They have otherworldly powers that then allow them to become enraged via their action skill. They can channel the power of frost through their weaponry so that they can freeze and shatter their enemies, and they can manifest an arsenal of raw destructive force. Alternatively, the Stabbermancers specialize in critical hits and status effects. They're able to keep enemies guessing by alternating between guns, melee weapons and spells, all whilst moving in and out of stealth. So these are the 2 they kind of focus on so far, basically your warrior type and your rogue type. Again, there are 6 classes, so hopefully we hear more about those in the coming months and whatnot, but regardless, the class aspect is pretty cool because you can still swap abilities between them. And again, there is of course the customization, which brings me on to the final point, which is super cool about this, and that is the customization. You are not playing as predetermined Vault Hunters or predetermined adventurers. You are able to create your own custom characters, custom classes, and seemingly from the gameplay we've seen so far, there are different races to choose from as well, orcs, that kind of stuff, which looks hella cool. So from a customization point of view, while yes, admittedly it is a first-person game and you won't see yourself for a large portion of the time, I do still like creating my character. So this does look to be a pretty awesome experience. So basically, if you enjoy Borderlands 3 or you like Borderlands in general, and maybe you like the Borderlands 2 Tiny Tina expansion, then there's probably something to look forward to in this one. But anyway, for the time being, those are just a few points that I think are worth calling out, things that are definitely kind of like interesting aspects of this game and things that make me excited to play it. So if you guys did enjoy this, again, let me know in the comments down below and keep it locked for more from this. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to catch more from us, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our latest uploads. And if you want somewhere to hang out, play games, or chat all things from games to anime, food to fitness, consider joining the HyperX Gaming Discord.